Hello, everyone. Welcome to Helps YouTube Live today, um, December 30th, looks like, right? Yeah, 2025. My name's Eric, attorney now for 46 years, the founder of Helps. Helps is a national law firm. We represent seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay in order to stop debt collector harassment. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature and we'll try to address them there. We should be able to do that. I want to welcome you, though, and appreciate all the comments. Um, So I'll start out with some notes from a caller that called us from someone who contacted us from Colorado. Um, we went over their situation, read them what we did, and enrolled them in Helps. Um, but I'll explain so you understand how this works. This person was married, um, but she got married later in life, and the debt she was having problems with was her debt, not his debt. They have completely separate finances. And she incurred the debt, it says, by assisting an adult daughter who was escaping from an abusive situation. And it took several years and a lot of money for her to help her daughter get out of that situation. Now, when I talk about these things, you may think, well, that's me. Not necessarily. Seniors have the same problems, so don't feel that you're unique, okay? Because you're not. And that's one reason we do this is so that you realize that you're not unique. And a lot of seniors have these problems, and there are solutions. So um, she had this debt she incurred. Now she's married. Is her husband responsible for the debt that she incurred? The answer is no. Okay, you have separate finances if you're married. Now, if you incur the debt together, or if you have a joint account, that would be different. But no, her husband is separate. He's not responsible for her debt. Okay, it says she has her Social Security directly deposited into a credit union checking account. She also has a savings account there, and she has another credit union checking and savings account as well as a regular bank checking and savings. So she's got too many bank accounts. What we're going to tell her is to narrow it to just one account, and that's the account into which your checking account, into which your Social Security is deposited, and that should be the checking account. Okay. Now, why is that? Well, if someone were to sue you and get a judgment and they garnished you, okay, which means they sent a notice to the bank or to a credit union where you bank that they want to take money from you, your bank will automatically protect twice the amount of federal benefits you get deposited into your bank account. So if you deposit money into your checking account, just use it, and you get $1,500 a month in Social Security, $3,000, twice the amount of your regular income, will be protected, no matter what. So just a second here. Um, twice the amount would be protected. Um, so once in a while, my computer asks me to reboot, and I have to put in the password. That's why I got delayed here. I apologize, but I'll be right back. I'm done. I'm just trying to find out where I was. So okay, so Social Security directly deposited. So she needs to close. You need to close all these extra bank accounts. You don't need them anyway. Okay. Um, so for now, she wants to keep her credit union account where her Social Security is deposited. She owes them some money. She has a credit card for them, but it's only $450. So there wouldn't be any reason why she wouldn't keep that credit card. If when people enroll in Helps, one of the things we ask them, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you still want to keep? And if the answer is yes, we'll say you can keep that credit card as long as it's not backed by a bank where you have another credit card that you're not going to pay. So as long as she doesn't owe any other money to that credit union that she's not paying, she would keep that credit card. Okay. Her husband owns the home. She has a 2015 older car that's free and clear, um, and it's protected under the Colorado's bankruptcy or exemptions. Okay, for vehicles. Even if she had a car that was worth more than what the exemption is for the state where a person lives, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors to go after your car. Now, it's different if you owe money on the car and they have a lien on it. But generally, unsecured creditors don't go after people's cars. It's theoretically possible, but it's very, very highly unusual and uncommon. She signed up with Beyond Finance, which is a debt management or debt settlement company, and she's going to cancel with them. Question, and if you're signed up with a debt management or debt finance company, my question for you is, when you enrolled with them, did they explain to you, if you're a senior, that your Social Security was protected, so is your pension, and you didn't need to use it to pay debt? The answer, with a few exceptions, is going to be no. Now, why didn't they tell you that? If they would have told you that, you wouldn't have enrolled with them. You would have realized you didn't need to pay the debt. So we sent her an email that talks about debt settlement, the hidden trap of debt settlement, also about credit unions versus banks. So, and she enrolled with helps. And the last thing it says is a very nice lady that is so glad she found helps. We hear that a lot. Okay, people are very thankful when they find us. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to put it in the comments. You can put QQQ or something so I can flag it either. Some of our viewers like to talk amongst themselves, which I don't have any problem with. But put QQQ and I'll be able to identify and answer your question. Okay. This person's age 62, and they called us from Utah a couple days ago. And they asked, what if you enrolled in a debt program, either debt settlement or debt management program? You're 66 years old. Says you're blind and you're on Social Security disability. Can you back out the money can you get the money that you put into the account to pay off the debt, or can you just shut it down and close off all connections? Well, okay. Yeah, if you're enrolled with debt management or debt settlement, you can call and cancel and ask them to return any money that they're still holding for you. A lot of times they collect the money to settle a debt, or they may be holding your last payment. No, you can ask them to return the money, and they'll do that. And you don't need to pay them anymore. Close your connections with them. If you want our help, contact helps. When you enroll in helps, you're going to give us the creditors you owe money to. We're going to send them a cease and desist letter, and they have to communicate with us. See, there was a law passed in 1978 called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That's the year I graduated from law school. That law provides that if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send you demand letters anymore. And so that's what helps does. We send a letter to your creditor or your collectors, let them know that we represent you and they're to communicate with us so that they can't bother you and peace comes back to your life. And we represent you ongoing, literally for the rest of your life, so you don't have to deal with these collectors anymore. So Jimmy says, Eric, there are so many elderly folks that are in debt but are afraid to do anything about it. What does one say to them? Come look at our videos. I know a lot of seniors don't want to talk about it. They try to avoid it. They don't know what to do. Unfortunately, there's a lack of information on this topic. You're going to get accurate information here from me, but there's debt management or debt settlement companies, even the nonprofit ones, withhold this information. Many of them do. If they did, they would make less money, so they don't tell seniors about their protected income. National Council on Aging gets $50 million a year from the United States government. They do a lot of good. But when it comes to helping seniors that owe debt, and that one of their mission statements is to help seniors, especially those that are struggling, and half of seniors are struggling financially, at least half of them. Um, but the National Council on Aging in their articles, they'll give you all kinds of solutions, but one thing they won't talk about is the fact that your Social Security is protected, and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act allows you to prevent collector harassment, and that money is available for your needs. And the fact that you don't need to file bankruptcy. Before I started HELPS, I probably filed 30 to 40,000 bankruptcies. And I started HELPS because seniors would keep coming into me, and I tell them you don't need to file bankruptcy. They couldn't afford to file bankruptcy, but I know if I sent them home, creditors would continue to harass and make their lives miserable. So with HELPS, what we do is we represent you ongoing. You can always call us on the phone no matter how often. Don't want you to worry. So that's why we ask our clients to share what HELPS does with others as appropriate. Okay, you'll know when it's the right time. Does calling just one time enroll you in HELPS, or do I need to do something else? Love all your videos. I've learned so much. Thank you. Um, you, yeah, the neat thing about HELPS is what we've made it easy to enroll in HELPS. Don't have to fill out any form. Okay. Yeah, you can call before you decide to enroll multiple times. Some people call, and I'll talk about it later today. I'll give some dates. People that called 2 or 3 years ago or 4 years ago, now they finally decided to enroll in HELPS. And we save this information so when you call back, we know who you are. It's all confidential. But so when you call and when you decide to enroll, we ask you some questions. We read you what we do. You know, there may be usually there's a small fee involved. It could be as low as $20 for 24 months, then $10 for 24 months, or $30 for 24 months, and $15 for 24 months, then free thereafter, or the most would be $40 for 24 months, then $20 for 24 months, and then free thereafter. Okay? Um, so we represent you ongoing, and the payment wouldn't begin until 30 to 60 days in the future. And when we enroll you over the phone. So I click a button, we click a button, we keep you on the phone until you get an email from us saying, welcome to HELPS. That confirms you're a member of HELPS, has all our contact information, tells you how to get us the collectors. All we need is the name, address, and account number. We don't need the balance. And within 24 to 48 hours, our goal is to send them a cease and desist letter. But when we hang up the phone with you after you enrolled, you're our client. And if a creditor called you in the next minute after we hung up, and you tell them you're represented by HELPS, you give them our name and number, they call us, say, hey, do you represent this person? You're in our system as being our client. So yeah, one time does the trick. But that doesn't mean you have to enroll the one time you call. You can call multiple times before you decide to enroll in HELPS. Okay? So let's see here. Can I send a court summons documents by text? You bet. You can email, fax, text, or mail. Yeah, we have a special text number you can sell. Take a picture of your phone, text it, or take a picture of your phone, email it, whatever is easier for you. Now, if you've been sued, what's going to happen? We're going to send a letter we're going to explain to you why you're okay, why your income's protected. Talk to you about your bank account, make sure that you understand how that's protected, what you need to keep it protected. And then we're going to send, when you get us the lawsuit information, we're going to send a letter to the attorney who sued you and letting them know that your income is protected. You can't afford to pay the debt. You're not going to go to court. We'll call you on the phone, explain why you don't need to go to court, and send you an email that explains about your protections. Yeah. So, and then if you have more questions, you're going to always call. That's the whole purpose of HELPS. If you ever have a question, you call. Yeah. Well, thank you. So Kathy says, I've been helps with 2 years and I sleep so much better. Yeah, that's why helps was started to help worry words, people that worry. In fact, we have 400 or 500 preloaded emails on different topics that we send to people. Because not only do we protect seniors from debt collector harassment, we educate seniors how to maintain their financial independence. Some seniors call us, they got a timeshare, they don't know what to do. Maybe they have a home they're worried about, or we can tell them about a reverse mortgage sometimes, which when it makes sense. Or maybe they car payment they can't afford, or they get sued. Any number of, or they owe taxes or student loans. Okay, so we help in all. We give information, provide information in all these areas. Uh, and Why? Because we don't want you to worry. We don't want you to worry, and that's why you can always call if you have a question. Okay, as often as you need to. We'd rather have you call than to ever think that you're sitting at home worrying about something when you don't need to worry. If for whatever reason you incurred a new debt, or if an old creditor sold a debt to a new debt collector and you got a new notice, then you let us know. We send out a new cease and desist letter out to that debt collector, so they leave you alone. So this person contacts us from South Carolina. They're age 83 years old. They have $1,700 in Social Security and a $250 pension. They got a home that's free and clear. That's worth about $80,000. Incidentally, the homestead exemption in North Carolina or in South Carolina is $76,000. Uh, their credit card debt, personal loan. Okay. And the person says she wished she would have called us sooner. We hear that a lot. She tried to work out a hardship with the companies and they wouldn't help her. She would pay them if she could. I'll talk about that. Our clients would pay their debt if they could, but they simply can't. Okay? They need the money for their food and medicine. So you don't need to feel guilty. You pay a high interest rate, okay? And the companies know every year they know what percentage of people aren't going to pay the debt, so they still make their money. Congress and lawmakers protect your Social Security, your pension, your VA benefits, your IRA, your 401k. They protect this money because they want you to have it available to pay for your needs, for your food and your medicine and things that you need. We explained to this person that their pension needed to be deposited into the same account to which their Social Security goes. Because remember, if they ever got sued, twice the amount of money they get in Social Security each month is protected automatically, regardless if there's other funds in the account. And they enrolled with HELPS. Okay. Okay. This person, next one, it says they live in Florida. I was sued by a credit card collector. Um, and they're buying their home. It says I am homesteaded and own my own home. Yeah, if you own a home in Florida, it's automatically homesteaded. Um, it says I live unfortunately in an HOA. That's a homeowner association community. So I have to keep up with homeowner association dues, and they can be expensive depending on where you live. I had to take out he says a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, in order to pay for a new roof, which everyone had to pay out of pocket for. I live solely on Social Security and lost my mom, who lived with me for 17 years. Um, she and I both paid for our household expenses. So she lost the income from her mother. It could be if you could be married, maybe a spouse passed away, and now you're living on the higher of the two Social Securities. So it's a common issue. Okay. Uh, now that she's no longer with me, I'm having to pay double for all household expenses, plus the HELOC, the home equity line of credit loan, which is a type of a mortgage. I'm in debt up to my eyes and can't keep up with the credit card debt. I do know, okay, you don't need to pay it anymore. Okay, if that's going to help solve the problem, you can stop paying the credit card debt. I'd say that to anyone. I do know that in the state of Florida, that a credit card debt cannot attach a lien on my property. Well, they can attach a lien, but you can have the lien removed if you go to sell the home. The credit card's an unsecured debt, right? It is. It says, yet the judge ruled against me and lien has been placed on my property with accruing interest. Okay? Okay, so different states have different what's called homestead laws that protect a certain amount of equity in a home. Some states, like Texas and Florida, have pretty much unlimited homestead exemption, which means it doesn't matter what the home is worth. It's still protected. No one can take it. And in Florida, there's a process where you can sell the home and you file some paperwork and you have 6 months to sell the home and you could get all the proceeds from the home, no matter what it's worth, unless it's over a certain amount of acres. But no, for most people, they don't. It's not an issue. Um, says I have no savings or any other form of income other than my Social Security check. I can't afford attorney fees. Don't need one. I drive an old 2008 Ford car. I have zero assets. I need to know down the road if I do sell, can I file to have the lien removed? The answer is yes in Florida, and that's still it's different for different states, but some states maybe a husband and wife owe the debt together, and maybe the debt is in the husband's name, and the wife is more likely to survive the husband. Therefore, if they don't pay the debt and they get sued, the husband gets sued, and his judgments. When he passes away, if there's judgment liens, they disappear because at his death, the property automatically goes to the other person's name on the house, the wife, because they own it jointly with survivorship rights, and therefore she owns a home free from the debt of her husband. That's one example. And there's other examples that you don't need to worry about. We go over that with people. Yeah, incidentally, we're going to do YouTube. Tomorrow's New Year's Eve, right? And we're going to do YouTube Live tomorrow. I've decided to do that. Yeah, and I answered this person. I guess this was on one of our videos, or maybe the video on another website. It says, yes, you can have the lien removed so you can sell the home in Florida. You don't need to pay the credit card debt. Your Social Security is protected everywhere, no matter what state you live in. Okay, here's one. It says, I took out a personal loan and they wanted to know what electronics I owned. My equipment is borrowed and they put that I own $2,000 TVs. Well, this was untrue. It's hard to find a TV now for $1,000. They come down in value so much. And it says this was untrue and the paper wasn't included in the paperwork that he had me sign. If I can't pay them, can they take my borrowed equipment? Well, let me explain what this is. In certain areas of the country, in certain states, there's different types of security interests. You know, if you buy a car, someone gets your name on the title of the car to the bank. You buy a home and they can put a mortgage. Get a second mortgage, be a second mortgage. HELOC, home equity line of credit, is a type of lien. And then there can be a lien on property. Okay, uh, like give me an example. If you buy a bunch of a valuable piece of jewelry from a jewelry store, they may have what's called a purchase money security interest. That's a UCC lien where they lien on the ring. If you don't pay it, then they want the ring back. Now they also have what's called non-purchase money security interest. In some, it's under what's called the Uniform Commercial Code. And so some lenders, when you make a loan, will have you write down property that you own, lawnmower, TV, dining room set, something like that, maybe some tools. And they say, well, okay, if you don't pay the debt, then that's our property. We want it back. You didn't, they didn't loan you the money to buy it. You already owned it. Okay. Now, can they take it back? Well, that's the purpose behind that loan, but as a practical matter, it won't happen. Uh, a used couch is worthless. They're not going to come take the TV. And if the TV was broken and went away, or you gave it to someone, it's gone. There's nothing for them to take. It's just something to intimidate you to think you have to pay the debt, otherwise they're going to come take the property. So it says, if I can pay, can they take my borrowed equipment? Well, if it wasn't yours, that you didn't own it, no, they can't take it. They're not going to take it even if you did own it. Now you could make an argument, or you could make a situation that they could, but one thing here it helps we talk about is we talk about the law, but then we talk what happens in the real world. In the real world, no one's going to take your bed or your sofa or that old recliner that you have. They're not going to do it. I mean, if you didn't let them in the door, they'd have to file paper. I know, 46 years of practice, 30 to 40,000 bankruptcies. Nuh-uh. It's never going to happen. It hasn't happened in the past. Now, has it ever happened in history? Well, I suppose you could find a case where it's happened, but I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, I just saw this next one this morning. One of our clients called. This is today Monday. What's Tuesday? Was it? I can't remember. Oh, I guess it's Tuesday. I'm sorry. Okay. Requested a call back to see. So this is a man note from yesterday. If what the bank did to her account is legal, she's going to the bank today, but said if you call, she'll pick up. Once in a while, we'll get a call usually on Mondays, saying someone garnished my bank account. Eric, you said that they wouldn't be able to do that, or they don't. They're upset. They're concerned. So there was a federal rule that was put in effect in 2012 that protects twice the amount of federal deposits deposited in your bank account, regardless of what funds are in there or where they came from. So the example I use sometimes, if you got 1,500 in Social Security each month, normally twice that. Now, it's the rule literally is twice the amount deposited within 60 days of the garnishment. Okay, so if for some reason you only had, it's possible that it could be only one payment, but it's so rare, it's not pretty unusual. But it's normally twice the amount's protected. And so what happens is that under the rule, the bank has 60 days. 60 days. They have 48 hours to check your account and to determine if the money came from a protected source. And usually they do it within 4 to 8 minutes. They do it right away. But if it's on Friday, they might not get to it till Monday, and you check to get money out of your debit card on the weekend, and they can't access your account. I tell people to call us on Monday. Just give them a day, and the money will be back in there. And I don't get calls back from people because the bank gets it straightened out and gets the account reinstated. Now, if you did have more than that in there and they did take money out, you can file a challenge to garnishment claim exemption with the court to have the money uh, returned. Okay, and we help people if that's necessary. So let me see if there's some questions here. Um, what if there's a HOA lien on a home in Florida? Can it be removed also? No, no, that's kind of like, it's not a mortgage, but it's a special type of lien. It's not owned by you individually, but it's owned by the home. So if you go to sell the home, that would need to be paid. And the HOAs, they have a they have good lobbyists because they pass laws that really protect them. And one of the things they do is, when they go to collect, they hire law firms. Some of these law firms specialize in HOA law. And why do these do that? Because they get attorney fees as part of the laws in the state. And I know some of these HOA law firms are nothing but scammers. They charge really, they're anxious to be able to come after someone and rack up the attorney fees because they know they're going to have to be paid from the sale of the home at some point. Okay. Okay. This person contacts us from Texas. It says we're 73 and 74, live in Texas, and are thinking of Chapter 7, bankruptcy. But I understand I don't have to. You're right, you probably don't need to. What if I sell my home down the road? Is it protected, or will there be a judgment? Well, there could be a judgment, but in Texas, uh, you can have the lien removed and sell the home and get the money from the property, no matter what the home is worth, unless it's over a certain size, number of acres. The example I've talked about before is, I remember years ago, John Connolly. He was governor of Texas when Kennedy was shot. In fact, he was in the convoy, and he later had to file bankruptcy. And I remember showing a picture of his home, and it was worth almost $1 million, and it was on like an acre or two. And he filed bankruptcy, but was able to keep his home that was free and clear. So this person in Texas, they also asked, what if you're working senior and you're receiving Social Security? Can they garnish your check? Well, they can't take your Social Security. And once again, Texas is one of those states that protects your wages from garnishment. There are other states that do it too. And there's other states that protect um, uh, a certain amount of your wages. Every state under federal law, if you go to work, no matter what state you're in, $217.50 net per week is protected. But a lot of states protect more than that. Texas is an example. They protect all of it. So $217.50 net per week is like $435 every 2 weeks, or about $950 a month. I know that I looked at someone who was worried about getting garnished in Massachusetts. And I may be talking about them later, but I checked it in Massachusetts. I think it was like $675 per week is protected, at least in wages, net. Okay. Okay. This was a response on one of the videos we did with senior living. Almost hesitate to read it. Well, it says just delivering a cease and desist letter to a creditor does not make the debt go away. It's true. When they die, the person's executor uh, will be responsible for paying the debt. They're saying, okay, your kids are going to be responsible for paying the debt out of the estate. If the person is too broke to pay the bills when they're alive, I think they should try to pay down their debt. It seems like that would be a considerate thing to do. Well, yeah, it's always nice to pay down your debt, but in order to take stress off the person who will eventually be responsible for settling the affairs of the debtor. Okay, let me read you my answer. And this is to anyone if you're worried about, if I die, what's my debt? What are the kids are going to do? Are they going to be responsible for my debt? And this is the answer. It helps assist thousands of lower income seniors nationwide. Very few have estates when they pass away. But if they do and have assets to pay the debt, they might owe that. They might owe, and that is fine. The bottom line is that almost half of seniors in America, according to the Kaiser Foundation, have incomes within 200% of the poverty line. They're classified as economically vulnerable, and many retire owing debt they simply can't afford to pay. The choice is between paying debt and enough money for medicine, food, and heat. The choice, um, you have no idea the number of seniors I've spoken to who cut their medicines in half because they have debt they thought they had to pay, or seniors that can describe in detail the price of beans, seniors who live on $40 a month for groceries. Many seniors continue to pay their debt, which is wonderful. We are not encouraging seniors not to pay their debt, just advising seniors who are poor or essentially poor uh, that their income is protected and available for their basic needs. I believe the video is clear that we are talking about lower income and poor seniors here. In other words, your kids aren't going to be responsible for your debt. And you're not going to have, most seniors aren't going to have an estate. They don't have any. And so let's say you had something. Let's say you had a home and you had your kid's name on the property. When you die, that property goes to your children. There is no estate. Okay. The debts don't need to be paid. If someone was joint on your bank account, when you die, the money in the bank account goes to the joint owner. If you had your kids on the account with you, or if you had a car and someone else's name on the title. Okay. Okay. Um, um, I don't want to miss any questions here. Okay. Okay. This person, another comment from one of our videos says, I didn't know it, whatever I talked about. And they say, I'm paying off my debt with my 401k. Is that dumb? It could be dumb. It may not be necessary because no one can touch your 401k. Now, if you had a huge 401k and you wanted to use some of the money to pay down your debt, you could afford it financially, then yeah, go for it. But once that 401k is gone, it's gone. You can't replace it. So for a lot of reasons, it could be a dumb idea. Okay, here's another one. Person writes in, they got a writ of garnishment. Okay, they got an answer. It says, garnishment on an old bank account. Please tell us, this is a client, what that means. We haven't had an account at that bank in over 6 years. Well, someone has a judgment against this person, and they think that for some reason, they had information that they had a bank account with this old bank. So they filed a writ of garnishment on that old bank, and the old bank responded to the garnishment saying, we don't owe any money for this person. So that's why they did it. Okay. Don't need to worry about it. I owe casinos money. I need help. Well, if you owe casinos a lot of money on an NSF check, then you better call and talk to me. Um, so here's one, kind of simple, but we repeat a lot of the same things on this channel. Maybe because we're seniors and we forget. I can relate. Okay, I get, person says I get $1,444 in Social Security and a pension for $369 per month. Can a debt collector take that away from me? They can't garnish your Social Security. They can't take your pension. Why is the pension protected? Okay, in 1974, a law was passed called ERISA. That's called Employment Retirement Income Security Act. It's a federal law, and it protects pensions. And most pensions are ERISA pensions. But if you have a pension, if you're saying, "Oh, I don't know if my pension's an ERISA or not," don't worry about it. If your pension is an ERISA, it's going to be protected under a state law. Uh, State lawmakers don't want seniors losing their pensions. So yeah, your Social Security is protected, and your pension is going to be protected. Now, if someone sued you and got a judgment, you'd want to make sure that the total amount in your bank account is less than twice the amount of your Social Security. So 1444 times 2 would be close to what, 2950, something like that. Keep the bank account in that range. Person writes in, they say, I heard that the IRS can collect all Social Security and pensions. Is that correct? Well, no, the most the IRS would do would be to offset, send you a letter saying within 60 days, if you owe taxes, they intend to offset 15% of Social Security. That would be very rare, and if your only income is Social Security, I don't think that would happen. Now, if they did, you'd have 60 days to file to get what's called currently not collectible status with the IRS. I can't recall seeing a time when the IRS garnished a person's pension. They could legally do it. They just don't, as a practice, do that. Now, if you were a multimillionaire and had huge amounts of money, that story might be different, but not for our clients. Okay? Okay, this person contacts us from Georgia. Their age is 85. They get 1,900 Social Security and about 190 in a pension. They have a $400 car payment and they're renting. Called us over a year ago, year and a half ago. Well, longer than that. The first time he called was 5 years ago because he was 80 when he called. So some people call us, may take a few years. They finally decide that they don't want to deal with it anymore. Says he's 80 and has lots of credit card debt he can't pay. He gets a call from card services and they want $17,000 to pay off his debt. He doesn't want to do that and believes in paying his debt. Well, great, pay it, but you don't have to. Says he's currently paying everything, but it's hard. Also says that he's just wanting to know what his options are. We'll tell you what your options are. We explained his Social Security is protected, they can't touch it. Then explain what we do. Said he will stay on our site. And when he gets home, he was on the road. It looks like I called him back in May of 24, left a message, And a few days later, he called again, said he wanted to join. And we called him back a few days later, left a voicemail. And he called back a couple of days later, but this was in May of 24, so a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago. Says he's interested in enrolling in ELPS. He has been paying his debt, but it's becoming impossible to pay them off. He has good credit score. He doesn't. I'll talk about credit score. We have a program that helps called 720 Credit Score. And if you want to rebuild your credit, you can do that. Not all our seniors care about doing it, but some of them do. After you've been part of HELPS for 90 days, we'll send you a link. Call us up. We'll send you a link to a program that's free. Your credit is based on your recent credit history. Lawsuits and judgments don't appear on your credit report. So you can rebuild your credit within a year and a half to 2 years to high credit score, even without paying the old debt, based on your recent credit history. He says he doesn't see a point in continue to pay his debt. This was a year and a half ago. He's on Medicare. He does not have any big hospital bills, but if he did, would they take Social Security to pay those bills? No. No, they wouldn't. Your income's protected from medical debt. No, his income is protected. Went back over what we do. He was watching us on YouTube and is still familiar with what we do. Uh, uh, we started enrolling, but he said he would like to continue to pay his debt at this time. He'll give us a call back when he's ready to stop paying. And it looks like he called yesterday and enrolled in HELPS. We went over the protections of what we do, which is fine. We never pressure anyone to enroll in HELPS. We don't need to pressure anyone. We don't want to pressure anyone. We don't make money to pressure anyone. The cost of HELPS is very minimal. And we don't turn anyone away. So we want people to feel completely comfortable before they ever decide to enroll in HELPS. So if I forget your question, put QQQ in front of it and type it in again, and I'll get it. Here's one. He says, JPR says, I'm late on an arranged IRS payment. I've tried many times to reach them and can never get an answer. You got to call for an hour and a half or 2 years for them to pick up the phone, and then sometimes after an hour and a half, the phone goes dead. You got to try it. I've not heard from them. What should I expect to happen? Well, it kind of depends. We got emails that talk about this, but if your only income is Social Security or a minimal amount, okay, maybe a little pension on top of that, IRS will probably never do anything if you stop paying them. And the most they would do is send you an intent to offset 15% of your Social Security after 60 days, which would give you plenty of time to get on the phone and call them and get on currently not collectible status. But it's generally not the practice of the IRS to try to offset money from persons that are just getting Social Security. Now, higher income persons, it's a different story. Now, they can tell what your income is. I can assure you, IRS has sophisticated programs that they know what your income is. And if you're lower income, now, they're still going to send you the notices. And if you pay it on your own, that's just fine, because some lower income seniors are able to pay the IRS debt. The question is, do you have to? And the answer is they have currently not collectible status because they don't want seniors going without their basic needs to pay the IRS debt. So depending on what your income is, nothing may happen. But if it does, you'll have time to do something about it. Now, I'm not telling people not to pay their IRS debt. Let me be clear. If you can afford it, do it. We owe that. But if you can't, the government has implemented currently not collectible so that You wouldn't be harassed. Now, if you get on currently not collectible status, you're not going to get those notices from the IRS. You might get a notice once a year saying you're on currently not collectible status, but that's it. Here's a note from someone. How low does your income have to be to get this protected status? Well, there's not a minimum. I mean, you could get the highest Social Security possible, and it's still protected. You could get a pension really high, and it's still protected. I don't run into that very often, but it's the not the amount you get. It's the status of the income. Social Security, pension, IRA, 401k. It's protected. Okay? So how low does your income have to be to get this protected status? There is no how low. There is no low. I've tried and eventually arranged a payment plan. Okay, that's fine. But if your income is, like I explained before, low, this is for JRP, you could stop paying it. Okay. Uh, this person writes in, I'm 80 years old and over my head with credit card debt. I receive both Social Security and military retirement pensions. How do I use the federal laws to eliminate my credit card debt? Uh, what we did is we emailed some of our form emails. One, YouTube Live talking about this program. One is why you shouldn't worry about old debt, and then we called him, went over what we did a week ago. It looks like he enrolled in helps. This guy calls us from New Jersey, or it's a comment. I don't know. It says, I'm drowning in a financial mess. I'm 52, permanently disabled, and I just can't get things straight. I'm thinking of bankruptcy. It's been such a rough time, health, financial, and even marital. Now, life isn't easy. I remember what Plato said 400 years BC. It's been attributed to him. He says, be kind to everyone because everyone's having a hard time. So what would I tell this guy? Okay, he's 52. He's permanently disabled, which means he's getting Social Security disability. Doesn't need to file bankruptcy because his income's protected. He probably couldn't afford bankruptcy. Bankruptcy normally costs now between $2,000 to $3,000 or more. I mean, I can't do anything about his health, and there's marital issues, but I can help with the financial issues, so you don't have to pay this debt, and you'll have your income to be able to afford to, you know, that income will be available for your needs. And then I'll talk about the marital issues for a minute. I remember years ago, my younger brother, who now runs the old bankruptcy firm that I founded, which is a big firm, and they're very successful, and they help a lot of people. And I told him, Lars, I said, do you realize how many marriages we've saved? We probably do more to save more marriages than anyone, any marriage counselor. And he said, Eric, you're right, because couples would come into us and we'd file bankruptcy, clean up their financial mess. I'll tell you another story. I probably told these stories, but okay. Years ago, this could have been in the early 90s or late 80s or early 90s. I was at a football game watching one of my kids playing football, and I sat next to a guy, and I kept looking at it. I knew I recognized it. Finally, after I looked at him after 3 or 4 times, he says, "Yeah, you know who I am. I know, you know who I am." And I said, "No, who are you?" I said. And he says, "I'm the guy you told to get married to the same woman for the third time." And I remembered him. They had like 4 kids, and they had been married, divorced, married again, and divorced a second time. They were back together the third time, and they came to me, and they were not married, but they were in a financial mess. And I told them, really, the best way to solve your problem, we can do bankruptcy, but you need to get married again. I told him, I said, you got 4 kids. You've been through it twice before, maybe 3 times a charm. And they did get remarried. We filed bankruptcy for them. Anyway, uh, no, I don't. We don't practice in Utah for that. I mean, we don't do bankruptcy in Utah. Okay, now, okay. Um, Person asks, we just got a couple more minutes. It says, when I default, can I choose to not default on some debt on selected? Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we ask people when they call us is, if you have a, do you have a credit card with a small balance or nothing is owed that you still want to keep? The answer is yes, you can keep that credit card. There's no reason why you want to keep it as long as you stay current on it. Okay. What if I later decide to sell my home to move to a senior apartment? Are the proceeds from the sale vulnerable? They could be, but there's things that could be done to protect them. I can't go over it here. It's too complicated. But you can usually protect that money from a sale of a home. So this is a comment on one of our videos. He goes, not true, in all caps, exclamation mark. Discover has a judgment on me for $3,900. And I may have read this one before, but I saw it again, and it's worth repeating. And I got a letter from the sheriff's department that they are capital ARE, coming after my personal and real property. All I own is a 15-year-old car, paid for, and my household property. I have 90 days to pay, or they will, WIL, capitals, take my property. I'm 78 years old, disabled with no family and Social Security, and Social Security is, all capitals, my only income. So he's telling me what will happen. Okay, my answer was, some states have legal proceedings that debt collector judgment holders use to intimidate seniors into thinking they will lose their property. You might want to call helps to go over your situation, Eric. 855-435-7787, toll free number. They're not going to, you know, they make it sound like this is really going to happen, where it isn't. Okay, we got one more minute. Jimmy has a question. I bought my bedroom set with Social Security money. Is my bedroom set protected? Asking for my neighbor. No one's going to take your personal property. It's not going to be taken. Every state has exemption laws on property, but even if it isn't covered under exemption law, they're not going to. Once that bedroom set is put in your house, it pretty much becomes worthless. You've seen the price of used furniture? No, they're not going to take your furniture. Yeah, not going to take it. Okay. It's been an hour. I did YouTube yesterday. I did it today. We're going to do it on New Year's Eve. And so we're going to be there for another hour, and then we'll be back on Monday. We won't do it on New Year's Day, and won't do it on Friday. We don't do it on Friday. I'm still working things out with Senior Living to do YouTube Live with them here coming up. So everyone have a wonderful day today. Thanks for listening. God bless. And yeah, sheriffs don't care to move junk. Yeah, they have to send the letter out, but the sheriff looks for every reason he can not to do anything. They're not in that business. Okay, we'll see you. Have a great day. God bless. Bye.